You know, people need to have purpose to get up. They need purpose to perform. You need to get to a point in your life where there's nothing on the docket. There's no 5K. There's no I'm going to get into school to be this or that and still perform to the highest level.
Davida Goggins, człowiek, który stał się symbolem wytrwałości, determinacji i nieustępliwości. Ale skąd pochodzi ta niezłomność?
Well, it's a long process.
Right.
My dad beat the shit out of me when I was growing up. I was the first black baby born in this hospital called Miller Fillmore in Buffalo, New York. My dad owned skating rinks, he owned bars, he ran prostitutes from Canada to Buffalo, New York. My dad was a big time pimp, big time, anything bad about a person, big time hustler. He was American, you know that movie with Denzel Washington? Mm-hmm. He was that, but not that bad.
Right.
You know, he wasn't that big, but that's what it reminds me of. He was that kind of guy. And beat the shit out of me, beat the shit out, out of my mom. There was an incident one time when my mom got knocked out on top of the stairs and he drug her down the stairs by her hair. And at 6 years old, I'll never forget this.
Mimo trudnej przeszłości Goggins nie pozwolił, by okoliczności go pokonały. Zamiast tego postanowił przekształcić swoje doświadczenia w siłę napędową.
I was always afraid. My whole life I was afraid, but I had this fucking voice, this conscience that would always be battling me, saying, hey, you gotta get up and do something. I didn't want to do shit.
Ale co naprawdę kieruje Davidem Goggins? Co jest źródłem jego niezłomności?
You have to want it. You have to want to be better. And it starts off with you have to have pride in yourself. You have to have, there's something about you, whether it's your last name, whether it's just the smallest thing. And if you have no pride in yourself, I can't give it to you.
Because you're always going to compromise. You're always going to fold.
Always. I'm very proud of myself. That's why when people said, you no way you can do better than can't hurt me.
W życiu Davida Gogginsa nie brakowało wyzwań. Jego droga do sukcesu nie była prosta ani łatwa, ale co pozwoliło mu przezwyciężyć te trudności?
And my dad, I tried to beat him up, whatever, at 6, and I get my ass kicked. So this went on for several years. And I have a big time learning disability because my dad didn't believe in us going to school. So my dad, it was about the business, the skating rink and the bar. So the skating rink opened about 7 o'clock at night. And this is when the time I was able to walk. So about 4, 5, 6 years old, 8, 9. And I'd go to this, skating rink at 7 o'clock at night. And I worked the skating rink until 10 at night. And then we would scrape the gum off the floors and we cleaned the whole skating rink up. And then my dad had an office. And my brother and myself would sleep in the office. And my mom would go upstairs and work the bar until 3 o'clock in the morning. And then they cleaned the bar up. So after all that shit was done with, going to school rarely happened. So when I went to school, I was all kind of, my learning disability. I had social anxiety. I was just a jacked up kid from living in this tortured home. From the outside looking in, we lived in an all-white neighborhood, and then we would travel to the ghetto of Buffalo, New York, where the skating rink was at. So we worked around mostly blacks, and I lived around mostly whites. But no one knew what was going on in that house on 201 Paradise Road.
Wielu ludzi mogłoby uznać takie doświadczenia za przeszkodę, ale Goggins uczynił je źródłem motywacji. Zrozumiał, że prawdziwa siła pochodzi z wnętrza, z umysłu.
A lot of people, wonder, how did you become this? How did you become so vulnerable? How are you doing a podcast now when you were this kid? You overcame things. You fought them. And now this is what happens. This is on the other side of overcoming. You become very, very powerful when you overcome yourself.
David Goggins jest żywym dowodem na to, że nasze ograniczenia są często samozadane. Jego życie pokazuje, że z odpowiednią determinacją i mentalnością możemy osiągnąć niemal wszystko. Ale co jest najważniejszym przesłaniem, jakie Goggins chce nam przekazać? To, że niezależnie od naszej przeszłości, niezależnie od naszych błędów, zawsze możemy się podnieść i stać się lepszą wersją siebie.
It's so easy to be great nowadays, my friend, because most people are weak. Most people don't want to go to that extra mile. Most people don't want to find that extra because it sucks. It's miserable. It's lonely. You talk about that you were kind of, lonely by yourself. I was the same way. And that used to hurt me growing up. Now I fucking thrive in that shit. That's the only place to be.